Part 21. Exploring the World, starting from the discovery of the white bone dragon pond. Author, Wo Yi Pian Hai. Chapter 201. Originally, the warden's token was of no use to Yeshi along the way. Oh, it's useless except to keep him from being treated as a prisoner in this prison. However now, when standing behind the figure of the most dangerous prisoner in this prison of the sun, the entire token began to glow faintly, and even began to shake, as if it was calling or awakening something. At this time, the entire token revealed something strange. The light on the token reflected each other with the light in other places in the entire region. The divine light was dazzling. The crystal brilliant feathers of light fell down. The glow slowly appeared, and then weaved into divine chains of order one by one. One end of Shenlian is connected to the void, and there seems to be something floating up and down. When Yeshi looked around, he seemed to see a rusty sail. The end of the divine chain of order firmly locked the humanoid creature in front of him with white hair covering the entire stone platform to the ground. Hot, its too fantasy is that the warden's token that Yeshen picked up from Mars, it actually has this effect. The fox is locked up, Weevu. I feel sorry for the fox. If you feel so distressed, you can ask Yeshen to pull you over and keep you company. It looks pretty good from the back, but it doesn't look like a fox face from the front, right? I heard that vixens are all that kind of beautiful, you know that kind of beauty. It doesn't matter what you look like, just watch me and Yeshen kill each other. The one upstairs is responsible for the quacking, and Yeshen is responsible for the random killing, right? Peng Wei, aren't you all afraid? I am God, Yeshen is not even afraid, I am afraid of a hammer. It is Yeshen who is at the scene, not me. Yeshi didn't notice the various comments on the barrage. After all, the mouth holding the network cable is always the hardest. It was sent to the crematorium for cremation and came back with the mouth in Balabala. Anyway, every time something big happens in the live broadcast room, it is not him who suffers, but the people watching the live broadcast. This is actually the legendary Juxiao Fox. There is no such legend, thank you. Yeshi held the warden's token in his hand, looked at the light curtain explaining Juxiao Kihu, and fell into thinking. 9 Sky Fox. The prisoner in Tianzibahanfang is extremely dangerous. He is the only Juxiao Jihu in the world. He is good at bewitching people's hearts and weaving illusions. He can almost confuse the fake with the real and turn the fake into the real. His own racial talent can help him hide his racial type and become a human without being discovered. Once he hides in the world, it is almost impossible to be found. His food is his heart, and he especially loves people's hearts. After causing trouble in the world and breaking the heavenly commandments, he was imprisoned in the 8 cold hells. After escaping, he was recovered and imprisoned in Sunset. This strange fox is extremely talented, the only one in the world. With many sexual quirks and all 9 divine possessions in his body, he is almost as dangerous as an immortal. However, he is protected by the spirits of the 4 heavenly kings, so there is no pressure. The words on the light screen were broadcast live. Although they didn't understand this special font originally, who made Yeshi's live broadcast room very advanced and equipped with a translation function. So, if I say that I didn't understand the entire message, will anyone call me a fool? What does Shenzang mean? What I am practicing now is the internal power secret book issued to me by the state. I can only cultivate the internal power that Yeshen said. What is the secret of God? I know a little more incredible information, write it down, write it all down. Aolegyo, so that's called Shenzang. Yang Shugwang, some research institutes call it genes, which I think is a bit inappropriate, but I have never been able to find a suitable word. Only now do I know that it should be called Shenzang. Jin Mao Bei, it turns out that I feel that there is something closed inside my body, which is Shenzang, but I can't open it. I don't know why. Yeshi collected the token, and the light words and the revealed divine talisman suddenly disappeared. Throwing the token in his pocket, Yeshi looked at the back in front of him and took a few steps forward. 9 Heaven's strange fox. The motionless humanoid fox with white hair covering the ground moved when he heard the sound. I only heard a voice that seemed to come from outside the world resounding in the live broadcast room. When did the warden here become someone like you? You also want to stay in Zazeo prison and watch us until the end of your life. The sound was vast and indistinct, and it wasn't coming from the front. But it comes from heaven. This voice that did not sound like a human voice echoed throughout the 8 cold hells in this corner. Yeshi was originally planning to walk forward, but when he heard this, he stopped. That's not true. I'm just curious about the sun, so I want to come in and have a look. The warden has nothing to do with me. I just picked up a token during my exploration. I am an explorer. When Yeshi said this, his body leaned forward slightly. The white hair that was scattered on the stone platform moved slightly, and his whole body seemed to want to move and turn around to see what Yeshi meant by what he said. Fox, there is something right about this person, but not much. Warden, X, Explorer, X, God, square root. The fox said that Yeshen used a character like you, but wouldn't Fox be considered an immortal if all 9 divine treasures were opened, so it seems that Yeshen is almost the same as an immortal? No wonder Yeshen felt like he was in a deserted land when he was in Dixian village. They wanted to become immortals, but Yeshen had already become an immortal. But, didn't they say Yeshen is a god? What is the difference between an immortal and a god? Yeshi stood there, watching the giant beast turn its head slowly. And then a snow-white face that looked a little creepy, as if it had been painted on the wall, faced Yeshi, 2 black eyes with a face like a white wall. Which made people feel that it was not a fox, but a female ghost, and there was no feeling of being extremely beautiful. When Yeshi saw the other party turn his head, his tone was still very gentle, but the meaning revealed in it made people feel a chill in their hearts. He continued. Are you the fox that ate me just now? The white hair around the Juxiaokihu spread more and more, even scattered under the high platform, and below it was an endless icy hell, and the coldness rose. And everything turned into frost, and even the fox's eyebrows, hair, and face were covered with a thin layer of frost and snow. Huh! A breath of air came and stopped in front of Yeshi. Juxiaokihu looked at Yeshi and laughed at him, who was not disturbed by the cold air of hell. With this snow-white and somewhat scary face, it did not make people feel scared, but was beautiful. Everyone who saw it felt that there was such a beauty in the world. I thought it was the new warden sent by the heavenly court. I didn't expect it to be a god. When Juxiaokihu said this, he smiled, his voice was very soft. Please forgive me for offending you. Since you have no relationship with the heavenly court, why don't you let me out? Does Yeshen look like a fool? You are beautiful, but you are mentally retarded. Although beautiful, you are really stupid. I finally know why a celestial being can be caught here. Exploring the world, starting from the discovery of the white bone dragon pond. Author, Xuanhuan Pian Hai. Chapter 202. Yeshi raised his eyebrows, feeling that the words of the fox in front of him were a bit stupid if he just listened to these words. But he also knew that the other party must be relying on something when he said this. So he didn't answer, just waited quietly for the next words. I can give you the authority over hell, as long as you are willing to let me out. Here comes the key word, authority. Is the difference between gods and immortals just the issue of authority? Yang Xuanhuan, God is the snake god that everyone saw before, and the immortal is the red hair that everyone saw before. It's such an easy to understand description. I understand it completely. I understand nothing. When Yeshi heard about the authority of hell, after criticizing the system in his mind, he knew that the system was just a tactic. He estimated that the authority of hell that he told the fox was the information about hell that the system told him. The authority of hell, I remember the red-haired monster abducted a hell. Your memory is correct. My friend in Baidu said that the red-haired brother seemed to have appeared in Baidu. Aren't you from Blue Star? Where did the Baidu friends come from? Thousands of miles of fate are connected by network cables. I don't understand this. Fox looked at Yeshi and seemed to be very confident that his conditions would make Yeshi agree to his request. Unexpectedly, Yeshi shook his head. There was once a complete hell placed in front of me and I didn't even take it, let alone the authority of hell you mentioned. I just came to take a look. Yeshi smiled and waved at Juxiaoqihu, then raised his feet and walked forward. Roar. Juxiaoqihu, who was originally very confident, was a little dumbfounded. He knew how important authority was to God, especially the authority related to hell. But he didn't expect that Yeshi not only had the authority of the Creator, but was also working hard to cultivate immortality. Therefore, his conditions were ordinary to Yeshi and not worth mentioning. And Yeshi's rash and random behavior. It also made the fox completely angry. An extremely ferocious beast roar came. A humanoid creature that was originally only 2 meters tall turned into a giant beast hundreds of meters tall or even unknown in height in an instant. Compared with this, Yeshi seemed like an ant facing a dragon. Of course, it is not certain who is the ant and who is the dragon. The fox's tail was covered in frost, and its sharp teeth were exposed and stained with blood. Everyone seemed to be able to hear the pounding sound of their own hearts. The fierce flames of the strange fox in the sky surge into the sky, and the world rises in waves. Even the hidden god of order showed traces. Although the rusty iron chain was made of bronze, it was covered with a layer of crystal luster, and the fox was torn off with force. Now that those 4 old guys have left, do you think you can stop me with this mere chain? He's just a little newborn god, but he still dares to be arrogant in front of me and seek death. Juxiaoqihu's voice rumbled, and saliva dripped down. The ice layer fell down with a splash, and the ground was broken through again. Fox, you can't at least be so reckless. It's over now. Isn't it said that he is the most powerful prisoner in the entire prison? Why are you so confident in Yeshi? You will know as you read. The person who shouts the most arrogantly is the one who dies the most miserably. Didn't I say that my main job is to cultivate immortality, my side job is to become a god, and I like to explore. When Yeshi felt a suffocating and extremely strong pressure coming towards him, he was not very nervous. Instead, he took the time to say something like this. And just when he was mid-sentence, Juxiaoqihu's attack had already arrived in front of Yeshi. At this moment, everyone, even those who had strong confidence in Yeshi, couldn't help but become nervous. This ferocious beast is almost as powerful as a celestial being. Many people couldn't stand and sat down on the ground. Thanks to the extremely realistic sense of immersion in this live broadcast, they felt as if they were following Yeshi and standing next to Yeshi. He was so frightened that tears and snot flowed down his face. Many people thought that Yeshi would pick up that terrifying fairy sword again. But to everyone's surprise, the sword was hanging clear and clear next to Yeshi, but he didn't even raise his hand. I got this sword book from a long time ago. It's just that because of the world, the power of the sword scripture is limited to mortals. Fortunately, the world has changed greatly recently. It just so happens that I can try to see if the Xuanhuan sword scripture is as powerful as recorded in the records. While Yeshi was talking, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, and countless sword chi appeared in Yeshi's eyes in the blink of an eye, or came out of the void. The swords formed a formation. Thousands of sword energy formed a peerless killing array, locking the Juxiaoqihu in front of him within the sword array. Ah! Chi! The sword energy was mixed with the sound of beast roars. It seemed like blood was raining from the sky. The sword energy soars to the sky, shining brightly in boundless purgatory. I'm going to leave, my eyes are worthless. It turns out that Yeshen's official job is to cultivate immortality. This is a big deal, right? Be careful next time you reincarnate, don't just light up your limbs, remember to light up your eyes too. But in the vast whiteness, I heard a heartbreaking sound. Dao! Save me! Ah, this wave! Yeshi originally saw Juxiaoqihu stop his movements, as if he was holding back some big moves and was somewhat looking forward to it. Unexpectedly, the big move he held back was actually these 4 words. He felt as if a row of crows flew over his head. Then he cooperated with the order god Lian in the prison to directly lock Juxiaoqihu back on the high platform. Boom! The giant white fox turned into a human form, and then fell heavily. The white hair was 3,000 feet long and hung down from the high platform. Frost floated, and the coldness seemed to have passed through the boundless distance and reached the edge of the universe, making people watching the live broadcast in other worlds shudder. The sword formation fell down like Juxiaoqihu, firmly locked beside the opponent. Nailed it to death on the high platform. If Yeshen is not born, the eternity will be like a long night. Kick the doorframe. Is this the ability after opening the god's treasure and cultivating immortals? It's too powerful, it really makes people yearn for it. My internal strength is not yet cultivated to the fullest. No, I swear, I can't continue to watch Yeshen's live broadcast. I must practice well, strive to open the god's treasure and then cultivate immortals. Tomorrow, watch the live broadcast the day after tomorrow, watch the live broadcast the day after tomorrow, watch the live broadcast, 30 days later, still watch the live broadcast. After Yeshi locked the Juxiaoqihu back, he looked up at the sky. He felt a shadow was approaching him. That was the ancient fierce beast, Dao. Here. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Exploring the world, starting from the discovery of the white bone dragon pond. Author, Xuanhuan Pian Hai. Chapter 203. Yeshi's movements to deal with Juxiaoqihu were very fast. Even the people watching the live broadcast could not imagine that his speed was so fast. And the same is naturally true for the belated beast. The speed with which he solved the problem did not mean that Juxiaoqihu was very tough. It was more because the opponent was locked by the chains of the prison and he underestimated the enemy. White hair covered the entire high platform. The fox roared at Yeshi, but was helpless against the sword energy that locked it tightly around it. As soon as he got closer, he felt that another piece of hair was chopped off, which was extremely cold. The sword energy made Juxiaoqihu squat in the sword formation and roar. Yeazeo came very quickly, especially after hearing the roar of Juxiaoqihu. The speed of running over became even faster. This fox is too wicked. Yeshi complained in his heart. The roar of Juxiaoqihu is indeed not a language, but it also conveys a corresponding message. Translated, it is, delicious food is coming, everyone, come quickly. Not only Yeshi understood the other party's words, Ziwei and Baidu also understood the voice of the fox tricking people to death, and posted it in the live broadcast room, which attracted many people's comments. Juxiaoqihu, fellow Taoist, please stay. Juxiaoqihu, the so-called dead Taoist friends who are poor and immortal. Then why do I think 2 people will die together? Be careful, 2 beasts. The hawk is here, damn it, it's such a big one. As a shadow passed by, a ferocious beast with a human face and a tiger body several hundred meters stepped in the void and ran towards here. The red fluff stood up in the wind, and 2 cow-like barks were burning. The blazing flames and sinister aura filled the area, and broken ice cubes fell one after another. Stopping in front of Yeshi, dozens of meters away from him, was the ancient ferocious beast. It looks so good, it is indeed a legendary beast. When you look at this big brother, he looks invincible. Quick, come up and fight with Yeshen, and then keep company with the fox. One fox and one tiger will hold hands. Whoever gets out of prison first will be the dog. Zai Wei Taiyinking, this Tao Tao looks like a pure-blooded ferocious beast. It is strange to say that such a ferocious beast is imprisoned in a prison. Good. It is extremely powerful, and it looks like it is indeed the heel of the four ancient ferocious beasts. Previously, this young man boasted that the nine heavens strange fox is the most terrifying existence in this prison, but now it seems that it is not necessarily so. How can such a nameless little fox be compared to the one uploaded to the prison? The said. 1,000 miles away, isn't it locked in another place? Why did it come all the way? Could it be said that it is not a prisoner in prison? Golden Mouse, I think it has something to do with the huge shadow over the sun prison we saw outside. Yeshi was waiting for the other party. He was quite interested in the tiger, so he didn't think of taking action in advance. Unexpectedly, he was waiting here. The fox just stepped down and saw the fox trapped by the sword array. He turned around. The clouds follow the dragon, the wind follows the tiger. Hit him and he ran away. I didn't expect the speed of running away. That's not necessary. What if you are stronger than Juxiaokihu? Why don't you come up and give it a try? Try and die. Who was playing the before? Why is the slap in the face faster than the speed of light? Yaezao ran very fast. Yeshi also reacted very quickly. Because after taking 2 or 3 steps towards the back, he found a clear sword standing in front of him. He could feel that the sword seemed to have endless sea water, or it could be said to be a sword smelted from endless sea water. He is not afraid of swords, but of people. The one who is afraid is the one who sets up the sword formation. So Yaezao turned around dejectedly and tried his best to put a smile on the person's face. You are the new warden, right? I sensed your aura and dared to come to see you. Yangju calmed down the aura around him, then transformed into the size of an ordinary tiger, and stopped where he was. He looked at the Kingian sword and the fox trapped in the sword array, and prepared to wait for Yeshi to leave and stew the fox to eat. I slid to my knees too quickly, which made me feel a little uncomfortable. Kneel down before being slapped in the face. I promised to lay the groundwork first and then slap the face, so that I can climax one after another. Yeshi looked at Yaezao, who even had a flattering smile on his face, and said, You don't have to worry so much. I stopped you because I wanted to ask you something. As long as you don't want to eat me when you see me like that fox. Yangju carefully tried to stay away from the sword that was following him closely. When he heard this, he subconsciously raised his head and smiled with all his wrinkles. That's because that fox is trying to show off that he has a level of cultivation that's almost like that of an immortal, so he can't see you, old man. Why would heaven send a mortal with low cultivation to Zazao prison? A chrysanthemum bloomed on her face. But I heard Yeshi say. I was not sent from heaven, and I am indeed still a mortal. I laughed so hard, I slapped the horse on the leg by flattering him. The tiger's body is visibly stiff, so pitiful. Then you are more pitiful, after all, they are much more powerful than you. When Yangju heard Yeshi's words, he suddenly slapped his tiger palm and suddenly realized. Sure enough, I see that you look like a young and heroic young man. How can the heavenly court be worthy of assigning you to do things? I just thought something wrong. A person like you must be a person who cultivates the immortal way internally and the divine way externally. He has the power to be invincible. Damn it, this is not what I used to describe you, Yaeshuo. Do you think you also watched Yeshen's live broadcast and stole my ideas? Ha 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 ha, I really find it funny. Why is this thing different from what I imagined? Yeshi also spoke at this time. You are different from the Taozi I imagined. Are all you ferocious beasts like this? Yangju carefully glanced at the Kingian sword beside him, and then at the Juxiaoki who locked in the sword array, and was completely convinced. Of course it's because when I saw your heroic and extraordinary demeanor, I couldn't stop admiring you. I also admired your noble and extraordinary virtues. I think even my 3 brothers would feel the same when they came here to see you. Because Yeshen is full of virtue, martial virtue. This wave of flattery. Yeshi took out the warden's token and saw that although the token was glowing, there was no order divinely and that should be locked on Yangzhou's body. He raised his eyebrows and the Kingian divine sword moved slightly. Why did you come here? Aren't you a prisoner in this prison? Yao Zhu fell into the void with a pop. At this time, it's all the fault of the octopus in the end. Yangzhou suddenly burst into tears, complaining to Yeshi with a look that made someone sad and crying. Sir, you have to do it to uphold justice. There was an octopus from the North Sea who had some trouble during this period, and created a very disgusting pollution. My area was polluted, and even the god chain of order fled in disgust. Otherwise I wouldn't have come to see you. Octopus from the North Sea, this time, is Yeshen going to bump into Kraken's father? Mr. K, is that you, Mr. K? Exploring the world, starting from the discovery of the white bone dragon pond. Author, Wo Yu Pian Hai. Chapter 204. Chapter 204. Yeshi glanced at the camera and saw the barrage on it, knowing that someone was thinking of Kraken just like him. So he directly interrupted Yezu, who was about to continue talking. Octopus? Are you sure it's an octopus? Yao Zhu was crying to change the topic, but he didn't expect Yeshi to ask this topic. He felt happy in his heart, thinking that he had successfully changed the topic of why there was no chain of order. In order to prevent Yeshi from remembering that he was a prisoner again, he was ready to deceive the unprofessional warden. Are you talking about the prisoner who caused pollution to the entire prison? I didn't see his appearance, I just saw the shadow cast by him. He should be an octopus. Appearance, or one of its manifestations. If you want to see it, I will take you to see him. You were the one who brought the Japs into the village, right? This guy is so charming, he is even smarter than me. You are too modest upstairs, please remove the word G on /. Exploring the world, starting from the discovery of the white bone dragon pond. Author, Wo Yu Pian Hai. Chapter 205. Yeshi's words were not only heard by Dao, but also by those in the live broadcast room. Those who followed Yeshi all the way back to the live broadcast had a feeling of sudden enlightenment. It feels like all the weird things happened during that period. What's going on? The spiritual energy has receded, right? Let me ask a question. Did anything particularly outrageous happen in the world over there in Baidu about 30,000 years ago, such as not being able to practice? Pangbo, hello, no. Aaleguo, the change in our world should not be the spiritual energy receding, but as Yeshen said, the dimension of the world has changed. Yang Xuanhuan, why did you start calling Yeshen too? Aaleguo. Kicking the doorframe, a man of insight is a hero. If it is a change in the dimension of the world, doesn't that mean that the entire solar system is like this, and the dimension has been reduced? Of course, Yeshi also considered this aspect. He thought that he had not yet gone to a place outside the solar system to take a look. However, from the limited understanding of those aliens, live broadcasts, and the system's words, I am afraid that other places are not as special as the solar system. Special means that this place is about to become a place of no spirits, without any fantasy elements, but has completely become a place for mortals. But it seems that the world has bottomed out, or for some other reason. So the blue planet has recently begun to upgrade dimensions, and many magical things have begun to appear. Everyone also realized that those legendary things have never disappeared, but are right next to everyone. It's just that the eyes can only see three-dimensional things, and can't see more magical creatures sleeping in other dimensions. For example, Ilang. Yeshi thought of these past events, and quickly put them behind his mind. Because he was in front of the biggest secret of the entire solar prison, so he should solve this secret first, and then talk about other things. As Dao walked, he recounted the things he had seen and experienced in prison, and emphasized his innocence. He was imprisoned because he had offended someone in heaven. Everyone was very happy to listen to these ancient gossips, and the heaven was further presented to everyone. The two words heaven also aroused everyone's sensitive nerves. The more the world inheritance was not cut off, the more sensitive they were to these two words. There is no heaven in this world, it is just a force composed of some high-level cultivators. Young people don't understand this. There was indeed a heaven in the ancient barren era, but it didn't seem to be the same thing as the heaven that Tao said. They seemed to be talking about immortals or gods who were above all living beings, not the heaven of cultivators. Could it be that there are really immortals in the world? Kick the door frame. Of course there are. No way, no way, no way. There are still people who have never seen immortals. There is such a world in the world. What a garbage world. Those who haven't watched the live broadcast of Fengxian Village might as well go and watch it now to avoid embarrassing themselves here. Why is this person so foul-mouthed? It's not easy to live this long. No leave behind. Brother Doorframe is like this, a little polite, but not much. During this period of time, Yeshi, under the leadership of Dao, met the other two prisoners locked in the Sun prison. How to say it? They are all weird species, not a single person, all monsters. After passing them, Yeshi was led by Dao all the way to the cage where the octopus-like body was imprisoned. However, when they saw the thing in front of them, everyone subconsciously covered their eyes, then squatted down, and dared not watch Yeshi's live broadcast again. Because the thing in front of them was the same source as the thing that wrapped the entire Sun prison they saw outside. Yeshi exhaled a breath of turbid air, then raised his head and looked at the high mountain sticking to the sky above the prison. Maybe it's a mountain, but it's more like a tower made of countless miniature abysses. It's daunting, and makes people feel cold and deprived of their minds. Fortunately, this kind of thing that can pollute with sight has been upgraded by the system, isolating it in the void space. Yeshi was looking at the abyss tower in front of him, frowning there, and Dao beside him was also enduring the discomfort all over his body, and even wanted to vomit. I saw Yeshi's eyes looking into the void, and he seemed a little surprised, and heard Yeshi speak again. I said, why there are so many fewer bullet comments? Don't worry, after noticing that pollution, anyone who touches something with a polluting nature will be isolated. You should understand that I didn't remind you this time. As Yeshi's voice came, people who were hiding under the table or even lying on the ground climbed up carefully and looked straight into the abyss. After I realized that I could look directly at these things without any pollution, I thought they were cute. People can't, or at least shouldn't, turn left and go see a doctor. No need to see a doctor, this disease is incurable in our village. Golden Retriever, so, how do you isolate the pollution? It is not surprising that it can isolate pollution. What is strange is that it can pollute a world just through the sight of billions of miles. This is not an ordinary thing. I am God, listen to your words, just listen to your words. Is this the octopus you mentioned? After Yeshi explained the current effect of the live broadcast room, he pointed to the abyss tower in front of him and asked Dao. Dao was actually stimulated by the thing in front of him and wanted to vomit. It was not polluted, but just felt disgusted. My lord, I don't know why this place has become like this. This octopus is too smelly and quite disgusting. I usually don't come here if I can avoid it. This thing should be the remains of that octopus. I saw an octopus about 10,000 years ago. It vomited this disgusting substance all over its body. The four of us were so angry that we beat each other up. When Dao said this, he smiled awkwardly, a little embarrassed, and quickly covered his mouth. Dao is indeed an ancient beast. This evaluation is really on point. I looked at this thing in front of me. Even if it was not polluted, it was still disgusting, and I was about to vomit the overnight meal. Yeshi did not hear the movement in his ears. He guessed that this abyss tower should overlap with what he saw outside, so he did not remind it this time. However, he became more and more interested in the big octopus mentioned by Dao. Let's go, let's continue to look inside. When Dao heard this, he made a vomiting expression, and then pinched his nose. My lord, this is too disgusting, it feels like feces, and I don't know which idiot actually locked this thing with us. Dao didn't know whether he had some confidence, or looked at Yeshi with a kind face and directly further accused him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Exploring the world, starting from the discovery of the white bone dragon pond. Author, Xuanhuan Hai. Chapter 206. Yeshi really didn't feel anything, after all, he wasn't the one being scolded. Who knows where the last warden went, but judging from the token he picked up, he was probably dead, and even if he wasn't, that's pretty much it. And Yangju looked at Yeshi's expression carefully, and saw that the other party didn't care about his words. He felt happy in his heart, and even more praised the previous warden, and by the way, he called Yeshi's praises, Lansings. People feel uncomfortable after hearing this. But Yezu seemed to start to believe it as he spoke, and became more and more sincere, as if it was really something that had been following Yeshi for thousands of years and tens of thousands of years. Yunren is me, I can't bear to watch it, why are you more clumsy than me? Kick the door frame, a good bird chooses a tree to roost in, and a man who knows the current affairs is a hero. Damn it! His tail was wagging. I refused to admit that he was a Taoist. We, the Dazu tribe, don't have such a waste. When Yeshi approached the Abyss Tower, he had already grabbed a large handful of the fallen star flames that had flourished in his world, and then threw them in front of him to clear the way for him. As expected, these strange substances met the almost golden flame, just like snow met the exploding sunlight. Almost instantly, a flame burned out a passage. Oh, is it so effective? Yeshi was a little surprised by the effect of the flames, while Yezu looked at the fallen heart flame on Yeshi's hand as if he had seen a ghost. Sir, how come you have this thing? Is the Japanese nuclear side finished? Yezu suddenly realized that what he said was a bit too direct, so he quickly made up for it. No, I mean, sir, you are so powerful. The warden of this Xinyan can't even touch them. I didn't expect that you would control everything in Zizao as soon as you appeared. Don't explain, your last sentence already revealed your true intention. So, what is fallen heart flame, doesn't it have any other function besides removing pollution? Yeshen can't even remove this pollution, but the fallen heart flame can burn it and melt it, which is already very powerful. Golden Mouse, this flame should be part of the sun's self-correction ability, but unfortunately, due to unknown reasons. Yeshi glanced at Yezu, then nodded. It's over. Yangzu was praising Yeshi gushingly over there. When he suddenly heard these words, he was a little stunned and even didn't react. But Yeshi shrugged his shoulders. It's really ruined out there. Not only is the Japanese core finished, but this prison is finished, and the entire sun is finished. Yaozu. The big face is full of shock. Actually, I just wanted to take advantage of the warden's absence and steal the house unexpectedly, the house was blown up directly. He didn't seem to have thought about what was going on in the prison, so wasn't that shadow outside him? There is no doubt that it is because his shadow covers most of the prison, so he can move freely in the prison. Huh? Didn't you notice? Yeshi looked at Yezu's expression with pupils about to fall out, and continued to speak. How is this possible? This is sunset. How could the people in heaven watch this place fall? They are not dead. Yeshi pondered for a moment and walked in along the flame-burned passage. Maybe he's really dead. He casually described the scene he saw in the sun prison, but saw that Yezu's expression became more and more dull, and in the end he was almost in tears. He wiped the tears on his face fiercely, and then threw himself on it. He stepped forward and hugged Yeshi's thigh. Grown-ups. That's heaven. If the heavens turn into such a dilapidated state, wouldn't I be doomed? As Yangju spoke, tears rolled down his cheeks and fell to the ground, splashing with sparks. Those who watched were dumbfounded. Yeshi. He was speechless as he looked at this Yaozu who was tugging at his calf. What are you doing? My lord. Although you are noble, upright, moral, high-minded, selfless, open-minded, and frank, you are different from the customs, are virtuous, have high feelings, are far-reaching, are virtuous, are light, are righteous, are ice clean, and are pure, but no one else is like you. Look at my hair, my skin, my tail, my horns, my blood, my flesh, and my supernatural powers. You can say that everything is a treasure. Now that heaven is over, I will definitely be killed. Catch him, cut him open and dismember him, sir, please save me. I am a purebred, a true Taoist, one of the 4 ferocious beasts in ancient times. How to use this idiom more than me? I really didn't realize that you were an ancient ferocious beast. My family has more backbone than you, even though I have a lot of money. Baidu Yezu, losing the beast, it's so embarrassing, his body has already been taken away, otherwise there would not be such a thing among us. Baidu Lizhija, but what I said is true. I remember that you seemed to be cut up every day, and then bled, etc. Yeshi looked at the Taozu, one of the 4 ancient evils, lying under his feet. No, it should be a Urha, and fell into deep thought. Sir, don't look at me because I'm so big, but I don't eat much. Please take me away, sir. I can take you around if it's okay. Yezu seemed to be aware of Yeshi's intention, and his hope increased greatly, and he winked. I went back and took a look at the time when Yangju had not appeared, and then took a look at the time when Yangju had just appeared, and it was true that things were different and everything was different, tisk tisk tisk. Yeshi was really speechless at this Yezu holding his calf. Just kick it away and continue walking inside. Yaozu was also very discerning. When he saw Yeshi, he didn't want to discuss the matter, but just followed Yeshi obediently. Under the burning of the fallen heart inflammation, the entire lower half of the abyss tower was burned and melted, turning into nothing. Hiss, hiss. A snake-like sound came from the small hole in the abyss tower. Just when Yeshi was walking in the middle, the abyss began to sing, and the voice from the endless abyss rang out, striking everyone's heart. Even though the pollution has been isolated, some people still feel as if their heart has been pierced by an invisible arm, and then a humanoid creature crawls out of it. Countless arms stretched out from the small holes, and then, identical humanoid creatures crawled out of the small holes in the abyss. Even if there is no pollution, this is a scene that makes people get goosebumps all over their bodies. Yeshi saw this scene. Reaching out, Void held a divine sword. Exploring the world, starting from the discovery of the white bone dragon pond. Author, Wo Yi Pian Hai. Chapter 207. The scene in front of me was really horrifying, but what was even more unacceptable was the disgust that came from the bottom of my heart. It was as if whenever he faced something in front of him, the disgust engraved in his genes would suddenly come out. Although Yeshi didn't have the resistance that others felt, looking at these disgusting things, he still had the urge to itch his hands, and he just wanted to crush all the things in front of him with a sword to make him feel a little happier. Yangju couldn't help but gag. The horn-like thing on his head now emitted a strange light, trying to drive away the weird things around him. The identical humanoid creatures climbing out of the towers in the abyss were already making people uncomfortable. When they really appeared, everyone felt that the hairs on their bodies stood up. Because that creature is not so much humanoid in appearance as it is a strange life made up of small holes. Perhaps it should not be called life, but an indescribable monster. Their bodies are covered in mucus, and their skin and flesh are just like human organs, but there are dense holes everywhere. People with trypophobia should not take another look at them, as they will die right away if they look at them even half a moment. Like reincarnation, these monsters crawled out of those small holes. As they came out, a pale armful of holes slowly stretched out from the holes in their bodies, and then an identical monster crawled out of it. The sheer number of them and their speed shocked everyone. From 1 to 100 million, not even a second passed. Like a beehive spreading or an ant's nest exploding, countless strange beings rushed towards Yeshi. Even the calmest person will feel that Tianling Gai no longer belongs to him when he looks at the entire scene in front of him. Mom, I'm scared. What the hell is this? Why is it just like copying and pasting? No, copying and pasting is much slower than it. Ugh, this is really the most disgusting existence I have ever seen in my entire life. No, it is the most disgusting existence I have ever seen in my entire life. I think heaven has done the right thing. This disgusting thing should be suppressed forever and never come out for eternity, polluting our eyes. I thought of a very serious thing. Isn't the prison damaged? Then this thing is going to be jailbroken. What if it comes to Blue Star? Many other people, like the person who posted this barrage, are worried about such a foreseeable event. It's not that I'm afraid of being killed, it's that I'm afraid of being disgusted to death. It was Yeshi who isolated the pollution in advance, otherwise Blue Star would have been filled with countless wailing sounds at this time. As soon as the sword energy in Yeshi's hand moved, he felt that Yezu, who was about to fight behind him, silently retracted his breath. To be honest, Yeshi didn't actually have much understanding of his own strength, so he couldn't help but laugh when he saw Yangju looking so cowardly. But the thought at this moment quickly disappeared, because there were still these ghost things in front of me. This thing was not made by the prisoner in the prison. Actually, I felt something along the way. Apart from the prisoners held in this prison, the most important thing to suppress here is not these prisoners. Yeshi looked at the strange beings coming from all directions, gently raised his sword, and then pointed it outward. The immeasurable sea water came in instantly and directly submerged all places except this small area. The spiritual sea surged forward, and the Kingian sword communicated with the eye of the sea, attracting the water of the boundless sea to wash away the dirt in this part. Yeshi was still explaining to the camera. Do you still remember when we came in and saw the 4 words engraved on the stone tablet at the prison door? The sword in Yeshi's hand then moved, turbulent waves rolled up, and the spiritual energy surged into the sky. The tip of the sword directly turned into a real dragon in the sea, imitating the appearance of the Elang, mixed with the endless flames of the fallen heart, rising into the sky, and taking a breath that is countless lives. People watching the live broadcast watched Yeshi holding the Kingian sword to evoke the immeasurable sea water. With a slight movement of the sword, there was a magnificent scene of a sea dragon rising into the sky and shouting hum. At the same time, I had to listen to Yeshi's explanation, which was almost to the point where my eyes and ears were not enough. However, I am uneducated, so I can take the world by saying shit. Family members, I just have a small conjecture. Of course, it is a very small conjecture, that is, the move that flooded Dexes who could not be Yeshen waving the sword and gently moving towards land. Did you click on the star? Impossible, impossible, absolutely impossible. What's going on? I think it's very possible, I'm scared. No, that was tens of thousands of years ago. Could it be that Yeshen traveled through time? I am God, maybe I didn't travel through time, but I survived from that time. Impossible, such energetic eyes cannot be possessed by an old monster who has experienced many vicissitudes of life. This is worse than guessing that the timeline is chaotic. Don't any of you listen to what Yeshen said. So what do those 4 words mean? Yeshi's voice came slowly, neither fast nor slow. Those 4 characters are the sunset in Yongzhen. The word Zizao refers to this prison according to Yezu. However, Yongzhen doesn't mean it's Yangju and the others. It should be the culprit that caused the 5th prisoner to become like this. After Yeshi finished speaking, he suddenly disappeared from the spot, and a Elang made of sea water accompanied the side of his sword. He held the Kingian sword in his right hand, and the sword energy, like the horns of an antelope, crisscrossed for 30,000 miles. A dragon roar rushed into the sword energy, and the sword swung down. Roar. The sword sounded. Yeshi directly cut this area into nothingness. He didn't think about how much strength this was, but he felt that he should be able to completely wipe out the disgusting thing in front of him, so he swung the sword down. A white light suddenly appeared, and it actually rushed to the eyes of the people watching the live broadcast. Son, come and see, there is a person on the sun. It's not a person, it's a sword energy. All the lives in the hundreds of thousands of worlds in the solar system, looking at the sun hanging in the sky at this time, couldn't help but stare wide-eyed under the strong sunlight. And saw this sword light coming from the center of the sun. It seems that I used too much force. But I didn't mean it. Yeshi hissed, grinning and looking at the camera. Farewell, even if you did it on purpose, so what, I'll be there to help you. Yeshen and I will kill together, I'll kill. A little bit big. Yeshi looked at the void that seemed to be cut open, then looked up at the sun prison that seemed to be even more fragmented by him, shrugged his shoulders, and thought to himself. It's going to be finished anyway, it's none of my business. Exploring the world, starting from the discovery of the white bone dragon pond. Author, Wo Yi Pian Hai. Chapter 208. The area in front of him where the Abyss Tower was originally built was completely swept clean by Yeshi, and he even washed it with water very considerately. It really makes people sigh that Yeshi is really a bodhisattva. Of course, this was what Yezu said. His eyes have now turned into red hearts. If there was any reluctance before, now he has completely fallen at Yeshi's feet. According to what he said, it was certainly not because of Yeshi's shocking swordsmanship, but because of Yeshi's noble sentiments. Of course, how many people believe this is unknown. In the past, I didn't know what you mean by licking a dog, but today I finally know it. Licking a person is like licking a dog, licking a leaf god is like everyone understands what I mean. When I see it, it's like seeing myself. But that sword is really terrifying, how powerful it is actually revealed on top of the sun we see. People may denigrate things that can still be pursued, but they sincerely admire gods who can't even touch the dust on their backs, but for things that are just like those in fantasy myths, everyone knows, right, necessary discussion. Bold, you actually said that Yeshen is a thing. Bold. You actually said that Yeshen is not a thing. Yeshi raised his eyebrows as he looked at Yezu, who was following him one step behind him, as obediently as a big cat, thinking that the range of his pets was really getting wider and wider. When I think of pets, I think of those two chi dragons. One is hanging on the tree, and the other is hanging in the sky. If the two see each other, they will fight with each other. If they fight, it will move mountains and fill the sea, and the sea water will pour in. Every time I see him, I will have a headache. Yeshi rubbed his eyebrows and continued walking forward. Under the explanation of this young man, Yeshi learned more and more about this prison, but even he had no idea whether this prison was suppressing anything else. But Yeshi thought about it for a moment. The sunspot pollution in the entire sun outside is very similar in nature to the layer of holes surrounding the solar prison, as well as the things we just encountered, except that the latter two are mixed with many other things. And the other things mixed in should be the fifth prisoner that Yeshi hadn't seen yet. In the process of thinking, Yeshi finally arrived at the place where the fifth prisoner was being held. Oh, poor fish. Yeshi looked at the things in front of him and couldn't help but make a weird translation accent. Crap, this is the octopus that Yezu was talking about. Where is the octopus? This is. Ding, congratulations to the host for improving the exploration of the Sun star map by 15%, and the overall progress is now 79%. Ding, Congratulations to the host for unlocking the fourth puzzle piece of the Sun Star. The reward is, Kun X1, the coordinates of the 130th floor of the earthly abyss X1, the floating light bottle X1, the 8-edged purple gold magic pestle X1, and the Sun Star map fragments X3. Sun Star Illustrated Book, The Earth Moves into the Abyss, The People of the Abyss, Kun. The Earth's Abyss, just like your intuition, what is suppressed here is not the 5 prison inmates. On the contrary, the 5 of them are the source of power to suppress the prison. It is hard to believe that there is an abyss at the center of the sun entrance, but this is true, and the abyss is constantly pouring out pollution and the people of the abyss. People of the abyss, familiars of no ends. Kun, you understand what I mean, right? I understand what you mean too. It's exactly as you guessed. It's a kun in the North Sea. It was caught and locked up because of its unlucky nature. And then it became even more unlucky because of the changes in the solar system. So the abyss transformed its pollution into this thing before you. The coordinates of the 130th floor of the earthly abyss, no one knows how many layers there are in the earthly abyss, but the 130th floor is the safest level. From here, whether you are going up or down, everyone will experience excitement that they have never experienced before. Floating light bottle, this is the most important means to keep the entire solar prison from being polluted. Of course, it is of little use now, but its dust-free nature means that pollution cannot touch it at all. The so-called mud does not touch it. It can transform everything in the world. The higher the energy level, the longer it will take. 8-edged purple gold demon subduing pestle, this kun believes in Buddha. Yashi looked at the unlucky big fish in front of him, and then listened to the sound of the system. It was okay at first, but then it got awkward, especially the last sentence, which kun believed in Buddhism. He didn't know why, but he always felt something was weird. But fortunately, I finally saw the big octopus in Yezu's mouth, which was the poor big fish in front of me, kun. Although the appearance does seem to have changed into that of an octopus, it is still possible to vaguely identify the prototype. Naturally, there are also bosses from other worlds who can identify it, and then quarrel with other people who think it is an octopus on the barrage. Until finally, Yeshi came out and said that this fish was kun from the North Sea, and everyone finally reached a consensus. The big boss in the next world was so angry that he was half dead. Although the young man in front of Sun Si had some qualities, he was naturally far inferior to himself. These idiots actually quarreled with him when he said so. When Yeshi came out, he immediately believed it. Damn it! You have lived in this prison for so long, don't you even know what other people are? Dao heard Yeshi's question, and he lowered his head and looked down at Kun's arrogant expression. No, I only had some contact with the nearest fox. I couldn't leave the other foxes. That's why I didn't have much contact with the Order God chain. It was only in the last tens of thousands of years that I got to know more about it. Yeshi nodded and pointed to something about a kilometer in front of him and said, "Then this is not an octopus. As for what it is, you should know that thing. This is kun in the North Sea. Poor kun." The little black guy upstairs showed his chicken feed. Bold. Let's go in and take a look. We may find the biggest secret of this prison. Perhaps, the prison doesn't imprison you 5 at all, but something more important. Here comes the key point, write it down quickly. I remember someone made a collection of old yes quotations, ha ha ha, now I look back and find it very interesting. Dao didn't quite understand what Yeshi meant, but he still followed him. Yeshi took a few steps forward. And with a wave of his hand, scattered thousands of clusters of fallen heart flame, watching the pollution burn into nothingness inch by inch, and then slowly walked forward. Let's go, we are going to touch the biggest secret of the entire sun. Here, he paused. Perhaps, it is also the biggest secret of the solar system. And, the reason for the change in the solar system. Yashi said this thoughtfully, and his voice spread from the live broadcast room to the 10 Directions world. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Exploring the world, starting from the discovery of the white bone dragon pond. Author, Xuanhuan Pian Hai. Chapter 209. How did you see that? I can't see anything. Maybe because you are a fool. No, do you blue star people always say things that hurt people? Yashi looked at the big fish in front of him. Its body and tail had begun to fork and were covered with mucus. It was like an octopus tentacles, propped up on the ground, and the fish head was still the original fish head. It was just that the fish head was covered with dense spider web-like things, and there were pieces of bulges. Kun's eyes were covered, revealing only a strange blood red. However, the most hurtful thing was the cracked holes on the tentacles and the deformed eyes full of holes. There was no pollution, but it could still give people goosebumps and even look around. It really made people dare not imagine what it would look like if the key pollution was not separated. Poor Kun. Yashi did not want to communicate with this completely polluted Kun. After all, the other party's mind had been completely polluted, and he fell into a state of confusion and became a perfect tool. It can only be said that killing the other party with a sword is the best response. So the stars in the sky fell down and cleared all the pollution. Everyone saw the huge and drowsy Kun of the North Sea, which turned into a rain of light and disappeared in the space. What followed was an extremely tiny hole, so small that it might be the size of a grain of rice, so small that normal people could not detect it. What is Yeshen looking at? Maybe he is mourning for the big fish that has passed away. To be honest, I really want to see what this Kun originally looked like. Of course, what I want to see most is Kunpeng. Is there any big guy who can show it to me? No, get out. What kind of irritable boss is upstairs? Yashi noticed the small hole that ordinary people would never notice, and he also fully understood how this prison could become like this. Yashi's feet were filled with golden flames. He took a step forward and was 1,000 meters away. He had already arrived in front of the small hole. At the same time, the rice-sized hole seemed to be deeply stimulated. The gray fog rolled up, and a small fingernail quietly poked out a small part. Boom boom boom. At this moment, the sun prison seemed to be hit by a very powerful creature, and the whole prison was shaken. At this moment, it was really like the collapse of the sky and the earth. Dao's eyes were a little flustered. He raised his head to see what happened to this place where he had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. It looked like it was about to collapse. And the fox in the fragments of the 8 cold hells couldn't help but tremble. At this time, the panic in his heart was almost comparable to when he was trapped by Yeshi's sword formation. It's just that the times have changed. Now, the 9 heavens fox is looking at the sword formation with cold light around him. Not only does he not feel scared, but he feels a strange sense of security. Although he can't get out of the sword formation, other dangers can't come in. What happened? Is the prison going to collapse? What's going on? Is that Kun so important? It seems that the prison has changed this way after Brother Ye killed that Kun. Could it be that Kun is the core of the prison? Kicking the door frame, don't dream, it's impossible. I think it must have triggered some mechanism. Although I have had this feeling of the sky falling and the earth collapsing many times, every time I feel as if the end of the world is coming and I am going to die. Doctor, am I hopeless? Yes, it is recommended to go to Nahi Bridge to reincarnate now, and then be decades ahead of others. Yashi naturally saw this big movement, but unlike others, he had long felt that a very unique energy that did not belong to the sun was rapidly gathering. While thinking, Yashi realized that a corner of his clothes seemed to be caught. Looking back, it turned out to be the Dao, looking around, looking at the world with worry, fearing that the sky would really fall. Yeshi thought for a while, touched his chin, and then looked at the camera. The flames of the sun's never extinguished glory stepped on the ground with his feet. Just stepped on the small hole under his feet. The sky and the earth suddenly became quiet, or the prison began to be quiet. Dao had never had such a moment, feeling that the whole prison had returned to a familiar feeling, and it was not like the disturbing atmosphere before. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Yeshi stepped on the bottom and looked up at the sky. He could clearly feel that. As he stepped on the small hole, the pollution covering the entire solar prison slowly subsided under the energy of a beam of light. What happened? Many people had this doubt at the same time. However, the people of Blue Star noticed the biggest change. Some of them with strong spiritual perception could actually feel an inexplicable force flowing through them while basking in the sun and looking at the sun. This force is not like the internal force mentioned by the official, but a kind of spiritual energy. I just felt that the sunlight outside was a little brighter for some reason. Is it my illusion? Golden hair shell, at the moment just now, I felt that the world seemed to have undergone some special changes. A strange energy surged into my body. Can I cultivate immortality? Alegio, our relevant departments have detected huge changes in the sun, and countless energy is dissipated from the sun. Does this matter have anything to do with Yeshen? There was such a terrifying movement in the prison just now. It was so scary that I even suspected that the prison was going to be overturned, but it suddenly became peaceful. Pangbian, feet, it has something to do with his fallen feet. When these barrages came out, everyone looked at Yeshi, who was posing in front of the live broadcast camera, with his face looking up at the starry sky at a standard 45 degrees, and where his feet were. This is not a still picture. Yeshi was actually sensing the energy flow of the entire prison. Before, he could feel that there was a thick layer of pollutant surrounding the prison's dome. But now, all this pollutant material has been crushed into nothingness under the sweep of several beams of light, until not a single trace is left. The self-cleaning ability of Zizao prison is very strong. It is so strong that it has been operating for countless years and only this one accident occurred. If it were not for such a small hole being dug into the prison, Zizao prison would not have been able to maintain its operations for even a few million more. There were no problems during the year. After sensing that the prison was back to normal, Yeshi just came back from his pose and looked at the camera with a very relaxed expression. All right. I thought this prison was going to be destroyed before, but I didn't expect that it would return to normal in such a short period of time. After Yeshi said this, he raised his feet, but the fallen heart flame was still continuously blocking the small hole. The flames kept disappearing and were kept coming again. Yeshi knelt down and called Yaozu, who was covering his eyes. Pointing to a small place underground, he said, "No, this is why Khan became like that. That's why this prison is contaminated. I just blocked this small hole, and the whole prison quickly returned to normal in such a short period of time." Yeshi sighed and continued. What I thought before was indeed correct. Yongzhen Zizao is not talking about U5 at all. In fact, U5 are actually caretakers. The real suppressed thing is under this prison, the heart of the sun. Exploring the world, starting from the discovery of the white bone dragon pond. Author, Wo Yi Pian Hai. Chapter 210. Yeshi didn't deliberately amplify his voice, after all, everyone understood. However, when listening to this extremely ordinary sound, Yaozu, who was squatting there, felt that it was Lord Lei from heaven watching the thunder next to his ears. It was like scaring a Yaozu to death without paying for it. The beasts were so frightened that they fell asleep. Yangju even forgot that there was Yeshi next to him. He just put his hands on his hips, white smoke rising from his head in anger. Goddamn heaven, why are they treating us so well? They specially cut out a piece of the ancient continent for me and sent it to me. They also dug out a piece of the 8 cold hells for the fox, and that Kun. A small piece of Bihai was moved here. It turned out that we were required to guard the prison. Draft the ancestor and uncle. The more Yaezeo talked, the angrier he became, and when he got to the back, he began to curse. Such a serious topic, what are you doing, what the hell are you doing? Have you noticed that this Urha didn't doubt Yeshen's words at all? I was so dull for a moment just now. Kicking the door frame, because you haven't seen anyone yet, and you can't even compare to Urha, I advise you to reincarnate as soon as possible. Don't waste air while living, and waste land with death if you die first. You can work sooner, save the money and line up there. By Vuchain, even the living king of hell wouldn't want to take away the mouth upstairs. Living king of hell, add 1. Yeshi glanced at Yao Zhu, who was pointing at the sky and scolding him, and for a moment he was both laughing and crying. However, he still squatted on the ground, then let the camera zoom in, and then started his career as a popular science anchor. After all, he is a professional when it comes to being a host. Everyone, please don't worry about that cat. Yeshi put his hand into the flame, and then pushed the flame away so that everyone could see clearly the tiny holes in the rice grains. No, I just stepped on this thing, and then I discovered that the source of pollution in the entire prison was directly cut off, and the pollution without the source was quickly solved by the self-cleaning ability of the Sun Prison. Yeshi said, letting the camera zoom out. As the camera gets further and further away, everyone can no longer see Yeshi, but they can still hear his voice. Now if you take a look at the entire solar prison, you will see that all the pollution that was previously attached to it has been swept away. So beautiful. Baiduli's Hija, what a beautiful ghost. This is a small sun-like star who is so generous as to throw a sun star into a star that imitates the sun. Only Duan Wuod can do this kind of thing. The prison of the sun with the dirt removed in front of you is indeed very beautiful. Countless lights flashed in it, red streams of light passed by, and little sparks were dotted around the prison. The spherical prison rotated, linking with other rings. It seemed that because a core power of the sun began to recover, those rings began to rotate slowly and sped up, getting faster and faster, until they were all bursts of light. And the solar core emits radiation on the side, shining on the solar prison. The original shadow quickly melted away like a mouse meeting a cat. This picture is indeed beautiful. Compared with the previous one, it is simply a world of difference, which has amazed countless people. What an exquisite structure this should be, a large formation. There is such an exquisite formation in this world. The person who set up this formation must have a profound level of cultivation. When the entire formation is running, it coincides with Zhou Tian's art, just like chains, one after another, locking the prison at the core. In comparison, those crystal walls are very Taoist Zai from the Zaiwei star territory. He threw his dog's tail on the mink and thought he was very powerful. This kind of heresy cannot be compared with our spiritual path. You should have seen the changes in the entire prison, right? Perhaps not only the entire prison, but also the sun has changed and started to clean itself. Yeshi slowly pulled the camera back, and the other person was still squatting on the ground. Yangju, on the other hand, looked at the divine chain of order that was watching eagerly with a grimace on his face. He wanted to say something to Yeshi, but he didn't dare to disturb him. The word clean is incompatible with such a fantasy picture now. This great formation should have been set up by the heavenly court, right, from the inside. I wonder how terrifying this organization is. Is it really the supreme heavenly court in mythology? I am God. I always feel that the heaven you Baidu talks about is different from what we talk about. Let me give you the right code. Who is the supreme god of Haoshan Golden Tower, Natural Wonderful Life, Milo, and the True Jade Emperor? Yang Xuanhuan. These are not actually the most important. What surprised me the most was actually the small hole in the flame. You can see weird energy constantly seeping out of it. If it weren't for Yeshen, I'm afraid it wouldn't be just this prison, the whole sun will be destroyed. 1,000 miles away, this wave is really wandering the earth. Aaleguo at, why did you start calling me Yeshen? You were so sorry that you complained about me before, haha. Yeshi stood up and touched his chin. So this thing is what the prison suppresses, and Yang Zhenzizao is also talking about this thing. As he said this, he pulled out the bamboo stick hiding behind him, then pointed at the magical chain of order and said to the camera. This thing is not as bluffing as some of them think. It is actually extracting the power from them to maintain the operation of the prison. I'm guessing that the reason why Heavenly Court arrested these 5 is because each of them is very special. The special thing is that they have the power to resist this kind of polluted energy. It's not like Yeshi didn't remember that when he went to the Abyss Tower before, he took action and was able to disperse or even purify those abnormal substances. With a bitter look on his face, Yangju asked Yeshi to throw it on top of the God of Order chain, not daring to move at all. Yeshi continued to watch the live broadcast room. He looked at the various barrages sent by the masters from all walks of life. It was really dizzying. It once again affirmed the system's behavior of bringing 9 worlds together to watch his live broadcast. However, he is struggling with one thing now. Kicks the doorframe. Brother, what are you looking at? This is not going to be fun anymore. A hole as big as a grain of rice can bring such a big pollution. I don't dare to think about what the main body is like. Who hanged himself? You really think you are the emperor, right? What is the number 1 flat-headed brother in Blue Star? Everyone looked at Yeshi without leaving the small hole, and they had already guessed what would happen. But when I really heard what Yeshi said, when I want to go down and have a look, still couldn't help but darken his eyes. Bao, I just want to ask one thing, can this pollution barrier block the pollution down here? It's not you I'm worried about, it's me.